everybody, welcome to another Sunday morning conversation. Today's guest is Rory Coleman. Rory's done over 1,000 marathons. He's a machine in the last 26 years. I don't remember what the official count is. We talk about it in the episode, but yeah, I can't believe how many he's done. He averages like one a week. I didn't even know there were that many marathons. So, he's out of the UK, so he's definitely flying to all these places. He also had Guillain-Barré syndrome. Sorry. Anyway, it's an autoimmune disease that attacks the nervous system. So, yeah, please do tune in. I'd love for you to join us. We'll find out how he did over 1,000 marathons in 26 years. It's ridiculous. Thanks, everybody. Hey, Rory.
Hey, how you doing?
How old are your kids?
How old are my kids?
Yeah.
I've got 7 kids.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah. They go 33 down to 2.
Okay, you'll have to explain that. Is it like a second marriage, or you just keep going at it?
No, it's a third marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got 33, 30, 28, 16, 6, 5, 2.
Wow, man.
Yeah, tell me.
I mean, how is that? I mean, it's a generational thing now. They span multiple generations.
I don't know. Maybe it's another chance, isn't it? Life's all about chances, isn't it? So you have one family, and some of those mistakes that you made with your first family, you can rectify with your second family, and some of the things with your second family, I can see in my third, and I'm very relaxed with them. I think I'm really relaxed with my kids.
I'll settle for just great. One, because I know divorces are not cheap.
Tell me about it. But that's life, isn't it? That's life. It's one of those things.
So what marriage number did you start doing the marathons in? 2 or 1?
1.
Okay. Now, was it did you make it like a family ordeal? Did your wife come to all of them, or?
No, it was I think I used it as some kind of psychological thing. If I go back to, I was 31 when I started running marathons. So I'm 60 next year. So I've been running them, nearly 30 years. I started running because I think I was depressed. And I got into sort of a bit of a dark place. And I thought, all I knew I needed to do was to go for a run. That was it. I had this overwhelming feeling. And it was just after New Year's in 1994. And I went outside my front door and just ran. I didn't get very far, and he only did about 100 steps and passed out. But it didn't matter, because I'd found my thing. I'd found that exoskeleton that I was going to hang the rest of my life on.
I can understand that. It's been like that for me in triathlons. And after my brain injury, I've had a couple of bouts with depression. I did ketamine therapy, and it worked. Everything that the research said it turned out to be. It should be like permanent for life. However, like a year later, I had essentially my life implode, where I took a job that was a bad fit. And I, with the brain injury, I couldn't operate at the capacity I used to. Went through a breakup with my fiance. So it was like all imploded once, and I had to go through it again. But, the funny thing is with depression, they do tell you that, exercise does help. For me, though, it made it worse because I was slower than I used to be, and that kind of made me sadder.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that. I now can't run a 5K at the same pace that my marathon PB, but that was 1996. I've been seriously ill since then. It's 25 years ago. Why am I beating myself up? I'm out there, I'm running, I'm looking at the blue sky, feel the feeling of freedom, feeling that freedom of being free. in just enjoying being healthy, actually, because lots of people of my age, they're sort of given up. It's I'm 60 next year and I'm still running a marathon a week. That's pretty cool.
Where are you doing these marathons at? Are they on your own? Or are they like actually, measured?
I do all sorts of things. Because of my job, I get paid to run. So
Okay.
I've got bags of clients that are training to do Marathon des Sables. In 3 weeks, I'm going to Jordan. I'm doing a 5-day race in Jordan, which is 50K a day. So 30 miles a day for 5 days. It's a desert race where you have to carry everything you need and you live in tents and run in sand all day. But I'm going there for 5 days. And like I said, with a 6, 5 and 2-year-old that don't sleep very well, I'm going out there for a break. It's just going to be lovely. No kids, no job for a week, just lie in the sand and run all day. What could be better?
Yeah, I didn't understand that until literally the last race I did this past weekend. After my accident, I kept racing, but I wasn't happy doing it. I was going through the motions. And then last weekend I raced it completely old school, like they did in the 80s. I grew the mustache for a while. I fixed the 12-speed bike from 1984. I had the headband, the aviators, and I raced in a banana Speedo. And, I actually enjoyed it because I wasn't racing the clock this time. I was just racing to race.
How did you get your brain injury?
I got hit by a big sport utility vehicle. It's called a Tahoe. I don't think they really have many of them over across the pond. But I was going about 50 miles an hour, and I was riding my bike to work, and he hit me head on.
Ouch. I did that when I was 18. I rode my bike into the front of the car. I went over the top and then hit the road. No helmet, but I didn't get any brain injury. How long were you hospitalized?
I was out the same day, but I had bruises, road rash, a broken finger, and the brain injury. So, from the point of like physical injuries, visible physical injuries, I was okay in a couple of weeks, maybe like 5 or 6 weeks that I was, back to running to, not as fast as I used to be, but I didn't have, I was okay to run. But the brain injury was the harder part to deal with. And it's had lasting effects. Stuff has gotten better though, slowly.
How long ago was that?
4 years ago.
And what's your proprioception like? Do you sort of know where everything is, or is it everything just a sort of bit rusty, or do you stumble or fall, or
if I'm not standing, standing upright at 2 feet, shoulder width apart, anything different than that, I have poor balance. Like riding that 12-speed with down tube shifting, really threw off my balance because I'm reaching down, and I don't have the shifters on my hands, so I wobbled a lot. But I can ride a bike if it's a newer bike with the, on the shifting on the handlebars or on my aero bars. But if you make me close my eyes and do it, I'll fall.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned to live with some stuff, and other stuff is just, they told me at the beginning, like 3 to 6 months, you'll be fine. And I turned out to be one of those cases that it just dragged on. And, after 2 years, they're like, this stuff is going to be pretty permanent. Well, some stuff started to come back after 2 years, and it was doing it slowly. Like, for one was my sense of humor. That's only come around like within the last couple of months that, I used to be pretty funny, and people are starting to find me funny again, because it was kind of warped for a long time to where stuff was only funny to me. And I didn't have that ability to read the room to see, that didn't go well, well, then it started to come back, and then I could read the room like that wasn't funny. Before I couldn't even tell that. Now I can. It's like, okay, we're making progress at least.
Yeah.
So now, oh, go ahead. Please finish your
No,
thought.
no, I just think it's interesting how, look, when you go through, when you have these life events that are out of your control, you either become a victim or you sort of fight back. And I wasn't well 5 years. It's 5 years actually now, and in a moment, life changes, and it's never going to be the same again. It's like a COVID thing. Everybody thinks it's going to go back to the way it was. Well, it's not. It's like wake up, smell the roses. It's not. So what are you going to do? Are you going to become a victim and just sit in this sort of pool of vitriol thinking, if only, if only, if only, and I used to, or you sort of go, actually, I'll start again and I'll set fresh PBs and fresh targets, fresh goals, and live life rather than just sort of think, actually, if only, if only, if only. I hate, I decided very, very early on that I wasn't going to be a victim.
Do you know what a snow globe is? Are you familiar with that? With the
Snow globe, yeah.
So what I've always said is, going back to the day of my accident, it was like somebody shook the snow globe, right? It took a long time for the snow in the snow globe to settle, and it doesn't settle in the same place as was before you shook it. That's what it's been like for me.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
Too.
Yeah.
So, it's Guillain-Barré syndrome. I stumbled with it when I was trying to say it earlier, right? It's where your immune system attacks the nervous system.
Yeah. So it usually starts off with a stomach bug, and your autoimmune system attacks the bug, but then it actually shreds your myelin sheath. So if you imagine all of your nerves coming off the brain stem that come all the way down your arms and legs, all the way around your body, it literally cracks all of that all that cabling that runs through your body. So your brain starts up in broadband, it starts off in the best broadband possible. And by the time it gets to your fingers, it's in dial-up, or actually it's just not there at all. And over the course of about a week, you go from running across the desert, which is where I was running in the Sahara Desert in the Marathon de Sable one week. And the next weekend, I was paralyzed from the neck down with Guillain-Barré syndrome. I actually had the subacute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy version, SIDP version, which meant I actually got it twice. I had it twice within a couple of months, and literally the wheels just came off. My wife was pregnant with our second son here, and I was in a hospital bed, really pissed because I was stuck on 976 marathons, and I had my whole world planned out in front of me for my 1000th marathon, and it was going to be a great day in September 2016. And I just laid in bed with all these people around me just crying their eyes out. Everybody I met cried. I didn't. I just sort of laid in the bed like a zombie for a few days, drugged up on very, very strong medication to take away the pain, because the pain was literally excruciating. It felt like the skin was being peeled off my body. It was that hard. And I just thought, shit, what am I going to do? I've been in some scrapes. In my earlier life, it was all self-inflicted with drugs and booze and cigarettes and this terrible lifestyle that I had. But now,
I bet it was fun at the time.
Well, you think it's fun. I don't know. I think I was a late developer. I didn't really know what life was about, to be honest, until that day I quit all of those things and went for this run. But the whole world just vaporized. At the beginning of Bonanza, when they got that film and it just shreds up and it all burns,
Yeah.
that was it. My life just went, and it disappeared. I just thought, wow, what am I going to do? I'm lying in this bed. I think it'll be okay. I think if I can get out the hospital ward on like a walking frame, they said to me, if you can get to the door on a walking frame, you can go. So I just thought, well, that's it. So 4 weeks I could get to the door on a walking frame and I was a pain in the ass, and they let me go. I was the worst patient ever, and they said you can go. And I came home for 5 weeks, and actually I just got worse. It was just awful. I couldn't do anything. My bowels didn't work. I couldn't pee. I couldn't swallow properly. It was just a complete mess. And it got to the stage where I had to phone the hospital up and say, can I come back? And they sort of said, well, if you come back, you can't be a pain like you were before. And I said, yeah, I promise that I'll come back and behave. And very fortunately, they put me in touch with a specialist in London who prescribed a huge amount of prednisolone, which is a corticosteroid. And over the course of about a week, suddenly I started to come back to life. And I was trying to, you'll probably know what this feels like. You sort of try and think to yourself, what's the actual, where's the basis of this problem? So I can't walk. I want to run. I want to live my life. I want to play football with my kids. What's the secret? And the secret is you've got to learn to stand up. Now, it's really difficult when your legs don't work. You're looking at your legs and you sort of think, come on, you can do this. And they don't work at all. But I thought, right, if I can learn to stand, if I can teach myself to stand, if I can start my muscles working, if I can start using an exercise bike to try and get the nervous system working again, if I can do that and teach myself to stand, then I can take a step. And if I can take a step, I can take another step, and then I'm walking. So I just planned out the next few weeks, and I thought, right, I'm in a wheelchair. Next week, I'm on some crutches. The week after that, I'm on some walking sticks. The week after that, I'm on poles. The week after that, I'm on leg irons. And then I'm walking home. And I did it. It was, and actually, once I got started on it, I saw it reminded me of learning to run when I was 31. And also, my son at the time was starting to walk, and kids don't just walk. They don't just sit on the ground and then suddenly go walk. Children take about 6 weeks to learn to walk. They have to stand up and they fall over, and then they stand up and then they cruise along the furniture. If you've got kids, then they take a step, then they fall over. It's a process. And I was looking at him learning to walk, and I thought, hold on a minute, this is going to take me. It took me 4 weeks really to get walking properly, so I felt sturdy. And then I thought to myself, right, I've got to run. I've got to do some races. I was 6 months out from the next Marathon des Sables, and I thought, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be on the start line of the 2:17 MDS. And that picture behind me, that's me finishing my first half marathon after I was ill with my wife, Jen. And that was, that was October. That was the 2nd of October. And I came out of hospital on the 1st of September. So that's 30 days after coming out of hospital. I did a half marathon. And then 4 weeks later, I ran marathon 977, and I've been doing, 130 since then.
Actually, after I got hit by a car, so similar situation to like 3 months after I got hit by the car, I ran a marathon. It was ill-advised because I was in a lawsuit over the whole thing, but I was already signed up for it before I got hit, and I was too stubborn to not do it because I paid for it already, you know?
Hmm.
So I did it. It wasn't pretty. I think it was like 3:48. Like, okay, I did it. I proved I can still do this. So
What's your marathon PB?
3:17.
And what's your Ironman?
I haven't had a good Ironman or a good marathon. My best Ironman is 10:43.
That's
But
pretty good.
yeah, when I was trying to qualify for Boston when I ran that 3:17, and I was running, I had to run at 6:57 pace because of my age. And
Oh, break 3 hours.
yeah, well, yeah, I had to get 3 hours because 3:05 is the cutoff, but you can't get in with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was running at the pace, and then mile 22, I bonked, and
The wheels fell off.
yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I was doing it on the coast in South Carolina at Myrtle Beach,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was along the beach. It was like a 12-mile stretch once you turned, and there was a headwind the whole time. So I don't know how big of a factor that played in kind of wearing me down, but I could feel it. Yeah, but at the time, I PR'd my half marathon in a marathon, so I was flying. I was on 129 half. So
That's cool.
yeah, it was. I wish I could have polished it off and finished, but it is what it is.
um, and how long ago was that?
2017. So it was before my accident in March.
Okay, and how old are you now, Eric?
36.
Okay. Um, it's interesting, isn't it? So are you a before accident, after accident? You're a BAAA kind of guy. Do you split? Are you splitting life that way?
Technically, I split it into 3 segments, right? So with my ex, early on, I told her, the old Eric is dead.
Hmm.
But at that time, I wasn't new Eric, right? There was about a 2.5 year phase where I was figuring out where my life was going to head. She was there for the first two of that, and then she broke up with me, and then I moved out. I didn't start making the recovery until after I moved out. And it's one of those things. If you're familiar with the Malcolm X quote, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. She's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of, she wasn't really a good support system for that. She didn't really seem like she had an interest in getting me help. So I was
Yeah,
doing this all on my own. And,
yeah.
until everything imploded and I moved out, I couldn't make any progress. So at about 2.5 years, I started to really figure out where I was going to be in life, what I was going to do at it, helping people do this. So at about 3 years is when I say the transition phase ended. So I separated into, think of it like Jesus Christ. I'm not particularly religious, but you have BC and an AD, but do you count the point that he was alive as something different, right? That, there's technically 3 phases in there, right? Before the clock
Yeah,
started.
yeah, yeah.
So that's how I look at it, right? After I got hit, new Eric wasn't the next day. He was not new Eric. He was not the old Eric, but I didn't know how long he was going to be around. I knew this wasn't who it was going to be.
Okay.
And I think she didn't realize that this isn't who I was going to be. He's going to be like that forever. So I don't want a part of that.
Yes, now that's interesting because so my wife, she's younger than me, and she might have said, "Do you know what? I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for a guy because they said to me, I said, will I walk again? That's all you ever ask the doctors. Am I going to walk again? And they just go, yeah, we don't know. It's a shoulder shrug. We don't know. How well am I going to be? Don't know. So if she'd said at that moment, actually, I didn't sign up for this, I'm off, I would have gone, okay, I understand. I understand.
You know what? That was my sentiment too. Like, if you didn't want this for your life, I could tell she checked out at about 6 months. See, I could feel a lot of emotions and things she was doing to me, but because my brain was like scrambled eggs, I
Yeah.
I couldn't express stuff or process stuff. Like to me, it was I felt it as pain because she was kind of abandoning me, and I felt it. But she
Mm.
stuck around for another year and a half. If you would have left when you checked out,
Mm.
I would have been better off. You would have been better off. And I don't know why she stuck around what she did, because if you're going to stick around, why don't you give me a hand? Help me carry some of this weight so I can stand on my feet. And she did. So, like, what was the
Yeah.
point? Well, if this isn't what you wanted, why didn't you leave earlier? You know?
Yeah, but what happens is people don't leave because it's going to make them look shit. They're just going to go, oh, hold on a minute, Eric's really injured, and you bug it off. And that's not what we do. What I found out was I found out who my friends were, the value of money, and I found out that actually she's a tremendous wife, because I'm not kidding. She did all my toilet needs. She looked after me. She came and saw me every day in hospital. She brought our kids. She was absolutely priceless through the whole thing.
That's great.
Yeah, because she's that type of person. She's a very caring person, and she's sort of she's like swans married for life. It's one of those things. You stick with people through thick and thin. She's also a runner. We met in the desert, so we've got that sort of synchronicity that people have. We have that common theme. But it's easy to check out. It is easy to check out. You just think, well, actually, you've probably dodged a bullet. What would have happened if you hadn't have had your accident?
Um,
What would have happened? You would have just carried on being Eric.
yeah, before I got hit, life was, in most areas of my life, I would call it pretty good. I was very happy. My job at the time, I wasn't happy, but I wasn't depressed or angry or mad or anything about it. It happened to be something that was, I'm an architect, and the job I was doing, the firm designed low-income housing. It's not glamorous, and when you think about it, it's like, I got a degree from one of the best programs in the country. This is what I'm doing. And it's like, but I punched a clock. I was working 40 hours a week. It was like I wasn't working more than that. So it wasn't bad. It just wasn't, what I thought I would be doing with my life with the skill set that I built and the degree I had. So for the most part, that was like the only gripe I might have had, but it wasn't that bad of a gripe because it had upsides to it. So life was pretty good. At the time I got hit, I was actually planning the proposal. I was looking for the ring, and my mom was helping me. And afterwards, I'm like, "You got to do this for me. I can't remember anything." And the thing is, though, when we were together, there were some signs of what she became early on, and I kind of overlooked them because they were small. She turned out to be a very selfish person, and it kind of was in the beginning. It was there from the beginning.
So maybe you dodged a bullet.
And probably I did, But the other thing is, what a road ID is? The bracelet with your information on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when I proposed, I changed her to my beneficiary to everything, all that stuff, because this is what I wanted for the rest of my life. And to show you how both of us didn't invest the same amount into the relationship, I didn't ask her to change anything. She didn't. But I asked her to change her road ID. I'm like, can you at least get me on there as your emergency contact? And she never did. And that's a $15 thing that she wouldn't even do. It's like,
But that's about commitment, isn't it, Eric? That's about commitment.
Yeah.
And maybe what you're now doing in life has more value than punching a clock and designing,
Oh, it's completely different. Like the book that I wrote, a lot of TBI people have read it. I haven't published it yet, but they've read it. They're like, this is great. I write very descriptively and vividly. People are like, you've been able able to put into words what all the things I've been feeling. I'm like, that's great. This can help people, you
Yeah.
know, and people have called me an inspiration. I hate that because it makes me feel pretentious, but you know, I've never thought that's not the person I ever thought I would be, right? And it's like that I'm doing things for other people and they appreciate it, they think it's a great thing. I never thought
Yeah.
that would be for my life. You know, I never thought I would do anything significant that would matter to other people's lives other than maybe the person that I ended up with in marriage, right? I didn't think I'd be that kind of person. Never. And if you asked all my friends in the past, they probably didn't see me as that either. So
It all depends how much value you have, isn't it? The value of being an architect on low value housing. Well, yeah, you know, it's someone's got to do it, and it's a good job and whatever. My business on that day when I went into hospital vaporized. So my life changed, and my business just went down to nothing. So I'm actually cheesed off in hospital because I can't walk and I can't run and I can't do my marathons, but also I'm now not earning any money. So I'm really pissed. But I just thought, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's think about it. Where am I wasting my time? And actually, I'm wasting my time on some parts of what I do. I coach people, and I coach people to run, but actually, I really enjoy coaching people to lose extreme weight loss. You know, it's a lot of, we're not quite as bad as America in the UK, but we've got some really big people here, you know, 200, 300, 400, 500 pound people. They're huge.
Jesus, I thought Americans were fat.
Um, I live in Wales, part of the UK, and 70% of the people in Wales are overweight.
What are they eating? I mean, I know we got
Uh,
like shitty food here, like fast food and stuff that people scarf.
we eat a lot of fast food in the
I was gonna
UK.
say, from what I heard about food in the UK, it's like that movie Snatch. You've got bad food and worse weather. That's a direct quote from the movie.
I think that's pretty right. So so I just thought, hold on a minute. Why don't I concentrate more on the things that I'm really good at, that are the most lucrative? And I rebuilt my business life. And actually, my value now, it doesn't matter how many marathons I've run, whether you've run one or two or 10 or 100 or 1,000, nobody cares. It's not important. It's important to me because that's how I gauge my own personal sort of success, because I go and run another marathon because I love it. But actually, after a while, you can't get any more of a wow factor. What people are buying into is they're buying into mindset. They're going, Eric, you've had a really hard time. How'd you get through it? And you say, well, it's all in here. My brain, I've managed to get myself through all of this. And actually, I've got a brain injury. I've managed to rewire the way how I think. That's what people are, that's the juice. So when people say to me, I'm really overweight, or I want to quit drinking or smoking or whatever, I rewire them. And we just go back to basics, and they report back to me that I'm their accounting process. So you're really heavy, I'll give you a diet. You follow the diet. You send me pictures of the food. We talk about why you eat. What's the reasons why you're overeating? Well, you know, I'm really unhappy. I'm depressed. I've got a partner that I love but doesn't love me. Oh yeah, okay, I've been there. Got the T-shirt. I've got a job I don't like. I don't like my career. I don't like where I live. And we work through that process, and we slowly change things. And as soon as you start changing things, people feel better. And when they feel better, they want to feel even better. So once you've got them on that cycle of change, actually, they blossom. I've got one guy's lost 30 pounds last month. 30 pounds body weight. It's a pound a day.
That's a lot in a month. Is that too much?
He's a big guy. He's a big guy, but he's not eating terrible food. He's out exercising. It's changed his life. He looks totally different after a month. He's only a young guy. But my value, doesn't matter if I run a marathon that week, I just think about him and just think, hold on a minute, I've facilitated that change in that person. That's got real value. And all it is just projecting my mindset onto them. People want to buy into your mindset because they just go, hold on a minute, you've had a really bad deal. How do you do it? How would anyone do it if they have an accident that isn't their own fault? I'd feel really, how have you dealt with the person that did that with you? Okay, you're gonna sue them, but how have you dealt with that person? Have you forgiven that person?
All right, I actually have an answer to this. So for a long time, yeah, I really had some animosity toward this guy for a long time.
Mm.
And it took 3 years to where I didn't really think about it, but I didn't forgive him, right? Um, I don't let myself carry the weight of that, but I don't forgive him until he apologizes.
Okay.
If you say you're sorry, I will grant you forgiveness.
Yeah.
If you don't, go see a priest. Then forgiveness will be granted to you, and I'm not going to carry the weight of what you did. I don't forgive you unless you ask for it.
Yeah.
But that's just like it take 3 years, and I was working with a therapist, and I was making compromise after compromise, and I was working on it, and I got down to that. I said, this is something I won't compromise on. You have to tell me you're sorry and I will forgive you. But if you don't, then I don't forgive you. That was to what I worked towards, and I was fine settling with, I don't think about him anymore, but I wished awful things on him so he could feel all the pain that I went through. And now I don't. I just,
he'll feel pain.
Honestly, until you brought it up, I don't remember the last time I thought about him. So, there's that. I honestly, I couldn't tell you when the last time he actually popped into my mind. So for the most part, I haven't forgiven him, but I've definitely moved past it.
Yeah, you're moving down there. Well, if you're 36 and you live a long and healthy life, you're going to be longer in the new Eric than the old Eric, aren't you? That's how I think. That's how I think about things. I'm 60 next year. I turned my life around when I was 31. Very soon, I will have lived in my new life longer than my old life. So I can't remember what I was like at 31. God's sake, it's so long ago. 1994. Nobody remembers 1994, do they?
I do. I remember the O.J. Simpson trial. That's about it. I was too young for it, but I remember the O.J. Simpson was in 1994.
There you go. I remember running the Telford Marathon on the 3rd of November 1994, first marathon. I can remember loads about it. I can remember my second one, running London. I've done New York City. I've done Chicago. I've done all sorts. Run around the world, and had amazing life experiences because one day I decided to change my life. But Guillain-Barré syndrome. Guillain-Barré syndrome affects about 600 people in the UK, and it could be anybody. And there's no rhyme, no reason. It just happens. A lot of people in the States have Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I look at them, and there's a Facebook group for all these people that are suffering with Guillain-Barré syndrome. It kills 10% of people. 10%, it stops your breathing, you see, it stops your diaphragm from working. Kills 10% of people. 30% of people never get out of a wheelchair. And everybody else struggles. They struggle with everyday life, tingly hands, tingly feet, lowered sense of proprioception. It really affects people. And for some reason, I can run marathons and live a normal life, and nobody would ever know that I've ever been ill. So that's down to fitness. Probably if you weren't an Ironman, if you weren't as fit as you were when you had your accident, you might not have survived. It's one of those.
You know what? The thing is, I finished Ironman Chattanooga 10 days before I got hit. So, I was in a given year, I was in the best shape that I am usually in a year because it just happened,
Mm.
And like the whole point of riding my bike to work was it's like, all right, I can get off-season miles. It's 15 miles to work, 15 miles back. This is perfect, And
Yeah.
I was, I thought it was going to work out, but it didn't. And I eventually I would commute to one of my jobs in the future by bike again. So I did work past some of that emotional trauma that kept me from doing that again. But I don't ride outside of it that much anymore. But I at least that part of the PTSD I've been able to work through to where I can, and I'm not feeling anxiety, sweat, stuff like that. So, did you make a full
Well,
recovery?
Did I make a full recovery?
Yes.
About 95% probably. I'm not very. I'm a little bit wobbly, but that's just some proprioception problems I have because you don't quite know where your feet are sometimes. But in reality, I'm pretty good. And we have a show in the UK called Deal No Deal. I don't know if you had it in the States, where you got a box and you take what the money is, and you don't know how much money is in the box, but you deal or no deal. Okay. So when you can't walk, if somebody says, right now, here's the deal, you can walk. You'll never run again. You'll never race again. You'll be stuck on 976 marathons forever. Deal, no deal. I would have probably gone deal, because walking, if you can't walk, not being able to walk is totally hideous. I wanted to have that freedom and that feeling of being able to go where I wanted to go, rather than pushing myself around in a wheelchair, because that's really just.
I was going to
hard.
say, while you weren't able to walk, did it cross your mind about doing the marathons in a wheelchair, or the hand ones, or you're like, that doesn't count?
No, that didn't count. The one thing I had was I had foot drop, so my feet just sort of dropped to start off with. My legs started to work, and I could start lifting my quads. The only thing was my feet were just a little bit floppy still, so I was going to have my feet amputated. I've made that decision. I just thought I'll get some artificial legs, and then I can run again. So I gave them 6 months. I just said, if they're no good in 6 months, they're coming off. And I would have done it, because when they're like this, they're no use. But at least if you've got some artificial ones, they would have been okay. So yeah, I would have done that.
I get that. I would have probably made the same decision.
Yeah. As far as the wheelchair goes, all the sidewalks where I live slope towards the road, so you spend all the time in the wheelchair trying to stay on the sidewalk, and then everywhere you go, all of the toilets are just hideous. They're so dirty. You sort of have to plan your whole day around where you're going to go to the toilet. So,
you have pay toilets over in Europe too.
Yeah, we have pay toilets, disabled toilets. Disabled toilets are disgusting. They're just filthy. They're awful.
We don't have to pay for
And
toilets here in the US. That changed a long time ago. They're free.
well, they're now free in Wales. We're a little country inside a bigger country, and we've got different rules to England. We have a little bit of different rules here, but it was just grim. So I just thought, no, I can't do that. I've got to get out of this chair. That was the big one, get out of the chair. Although I did, all my time in hospital, I was looking at people in wheelchairs thinking, well, actually, they look quite happy. And I knew lots of ultra marathon runners who were really miserable. So I thought, well, yeah, if I've got to live life in a wheelchair, I'll have to live it in a wheelchair. But I was never going to wheelchair race. That would have been, one of my friends did it. He was a runner and then couldn't run anymore, and then started wheelchair racing because he wanted to still feel that same excitement, but quickly gave up. It's just not. That's not me.
Yeah, I probably feel the same way. I don't know. I would say it's kind of like doing drugs. It's not the same high. It's not as good. Do I really want it?
It's different, and also I'm very much, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just do what you can do with what you've got? And now, if you can go out and you can swim and run and cycle, and it takes you 16 hours to do Ironman, who cares? It's you're still out there doing it, and that's good enough. It's not all about times. It's about experience. Well, what do you do with all your medals? Where are all your medals? Are they on display, or are they in a bag?
They are on the display on the small wall of my bedroom. So
Mine are all in a bag. Mine are all in a bag upstairs, because I'm not reward driven. I'm experience driven. All the memories are in here. I don't have to look at a medal to go, well, there's the New York City Marathon from 1999. Wow.
Well, I don't pull them out and look at them one by one and reminisce and stuff like that. They're up there, but that's not how I feel about them. And
I don't.
I'm a combination of both of those things. For the most part, I like to do races. I don't like to do races twice. I've only done that with a couple of them, and once 3 times. But for the most part, I want one and dones because I like to travel. I want a pin for my race map, and I love writing race reports. I love to write. That's one of the things that helped me recover, is how much I've written. I don't know how many words or pages, but it's like thousands right now. So I write about my experiences, and again, I write very descriptive and vivid, but they're on my website, and people, including my friends, I like to write for them too, because they enjoy the experience that I had and the way that I tell it. So that's fun for me, and it's Are
you quite an honest writer? Do you write and say things as they are?
Yeah. For the most part, the only time I've ever left anything out, my ex said, leave, like, don't mention too much of our sex life. I'm like, all right. I didn't leave it out completely, but I didn't say everything. And there happened to be, I don't like to publicly embarrass people, because I went to a race at the beginning in March, right? And my friend was going through a divorce, and I was dealing with, I was dealing with my own personal shit too. But I've always been a stand-up guy, right? I was taught, be a stand-up guy. Don't really expect to ever ask for anything in return. Do it without expecting anything. That's what I always done. So I've helped him through it. I said, and he was going through a hard time. Like, he loves to race. I'm like, come with me to Miami. So we did that race, and I heard his wife's side of the story, and I've heard his side of the story. And I told him, I said, I don't care who's right or who's wrong. I said, neither story affects my life personally. I'm just helping you through this.
Yeah.
But the way he acted at Miami, I didn't write about that. Right. That stayed out because I haven't really had the discussion with him how it went, but it wasn't part of the race report. Right. It happened during the trip, but it wasn't part of my race. When I talked to his wife about it, he's like, that's what it's like going to a race with him. So I realized that, maybe I should have a conversation with him one day, because that's, maybe it's something he could work on, for wife number 3,
I dread to think what he was doing in Miami, but yeah, I'm talking about your sex. There's too much information talking about your sex life in books.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? I don't know. It was the way that I described it, in the sense that I wrote about it that, when she checked out, she didn't really have any interest in me. So I didn't tell like what my favorite moves are, stuff like that. It was kind of like from an emotional standpoint. So that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
there's some details that I leave out, some stuff that I realize is private. It doesn't need the public eye. But for the most part, when it comes to me as a person, I'm very transparent.
yeah.
I'll write about it, but if you ask me any question, odds are I'll probably answer it. And, if there hasn't been one I haven't answered yet, right? So I may not, so we'll see.
I'm like that. People can ask me anything. I'll tell them whatever. It doesn't matter. I always say to people, become really critically ill, and then you'll find out that life just takes on a completely different aspect. And actually, you find out a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff we do is totally worthless. And as for your ex-fiance, whatever, she's crazy because she's lost out, isn't she?
I'll tell you what, man. I gotta treat it. I put her up on the pedestal. Like, I treated her like I thought she should be treated. I never stopped doing the little things. I never stopped doing the big things. Like, when I was really depressed, it just so happened to be during the time where we had to put her 15-year-old dog to sleep, right? So I knew, I'm like, I got to pull my shit together, right? Just for a couple of months to help her through it till she's good enough to where she can, she can stand on her 2 feet again. And she was having a really hard time, right? And she had always wanted to do the downstairs bathroom and renovate it, paint it. But, being who she is, she works too much, stuff like that. She was never get around to it. And I was unemployed at the time because I just got fired. Remember, I'm kind of incompetent at my job because of my brain injury. I've been trying to work, but I was at home. And so it was a Monday. And for the entire week, I bought everything I needed. I planned it to where she left at 6 a.m. for her work on Friday. I immediately started on the bathroom, and I had everything done by the time she got home. I wanted her to feel good, So I did a big thing there. And the little thing, like, she had never had anyone buy her flowers before. And she used to keep a fucking flower vase on the dining room table with no flowers. And I'm like, why the fuck do you have a vase with no flowers, right? It makes no fucking sense to me. I bought her flowers. Well, every 3 weeks when they would die, I would go to the grocery store. I pick up some nice flowers for like $15. I do that, I never stopped doing those things because I never stopped caring, I wanted to try to make things work. And
but she didn't.
Yeah. And
that's the hard bit.
Yeah. And it was, she didn't invest as much. It was kind of one-sided. But I tried to always make it feel like you were never unwanted,
Do you feel unwanted now? Did that make you feel isolated and unwanted?
Getting back in the dating pool again, I don't feel unwanted, but it's online dating is hard. I don't know how you keep finding these women, but when your wife's that much you, I don't know where you picked her up at.
I was in Marathon de Sable, and it was just, she was there.
So
Um,
I picked up my fiance at a group run at a running specialty store. It happened to be a women's running specialty store. They cater to mostly women. It's women owned. So I started going there right about the same time she started going there, and she was the only single woman there. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And she was 8 years older than me too.
yeah.
Yeah. But online dating is miserable and it sucks. That's not that I felt unwanted, but with the brain injury, when you're online dating, they assume the worst of it. Like you don't dress yourself, you're drooling on the polo that your mom put you in, you can't take care of yourself. They assume that when you're talking to them, you say you have a brain injury. So the battle is to get them to actually go on a date with you to see, yeah, I could talk like a normal person for the most part. I look and appear like a normal person, but
So
they
why
don't think
why is
that.
why is the big thing? So why is it a big thing?
They just
I don't
assume
say to
like you're a
people,
vegetable, that you can't take care of yourself. They
maybe
don't
you're
know
not
me yet.
vegetable.
If you go on a date with me, if I can actually get you out on a date, yeah, they see I'm pretty normal. So,
I
but
don't. The first thing I don't say to people is, "Oh, I've had Guillain-Barré syndrome. I'm really sorry." Um, it's not. It's nobody's goddamn business, you know.
it's
And what
not
this?
that I don't come right out and say it, but all
Mm,
roads lead to it, right? It's like the six. I don't know if you know who Kevin Bacon is. It's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
oh
If
yeah,
you
yeah,
talk to six people, you'll get to Kevin Bacon, right?
yeah.
Well, eventually, you're going to say, well, what do you do for work, right? I don't work as an architect anymore. What do I do? I advocate for brain injuries. Why do you do that? I have a brain injury, right? So for
No, you
me,
said
it's
I had
really
an
hard to
I had
tiptoe
an
around it
accident.
because there somehow it's going to lead to it. And even if I try to gloss over it without going into detail, you know,
But they learned that, but they don't know the old you, do they? They only know the new you that is
no, they don't
bright.
even know that. I'm trying to get them to give me a date to know the new me.
Well, you seem pretty cool to me. Um, pe- People find people, and you can go looking. I always say this to people, you can swipe, 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 or you do your job and you just meet somebody, and it happens organically, like it used to when we were kids.
You know what? That's the thing. The last one happened organically. I had 2 weeks before I met her, I got sick of online dating. I've been doing it for a year and a half. Like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I give up. I'm just gonna work on myself, do all the racing and stuff. And then 2 weeks is when I met her, right? And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stop dating. And if it happens, or whatever. But if I hate online dating so much, why the fuck am I putting it through it? Doing all that swiping
Exactly.
and stuff, it's a part-time job. I don't want that.
Yeah, it's really grim. Um, but why don't you just let life happen?
That's what I am doing. That's kind of what I switched to. I'm like, that just I'm not really concerned about it. You know, I can have
Oh,
kids at whatever age. You're evidence of that.
oh yes. That's it now. 7 and 8. But I'm certainly living life. You know, like I said, I'm turning 60. Um, I'm, I want to try and do what I'm doing now for as long as I possibly can. That's the aim. And we live in a nice house. We've got these 3 young kids. I'm getting a chance to um, be a dad again, like I have with my 3 oldest kids. And I'm reliving all those years in the 1980s and 1990s. And actually, life's all right. Why beat myself up? Because there's no point.
So I got one last question for you that I ask people in the UK when I talk to them.
Go
What
on.
side of Brexit are you on?
What's well, I'm a Remainer because you want to know why?
Yeah,
Um,
to me it sounds like a bad deal. Like, it seems like you lost a lot.
we lost an awful lot when the problem was the vote came around and it was sold into the UK as immigration, basically. Cameron sold
Same
it
shit
as
happened here.
yeah, immigration. So they said all the jobs are being taken by people from Romania and blah blah blah, and we're going to stop all of that, and we're going to stop being told what to do by the EC, and we don't need them anymore, and isn't it a good idea? As soon as the vote came in, everybody just went, "Oh shit, what have we done?" When the realization of what it would cost and what would happen to the UK came along, it was just like, oh my God. So I live in Cardiff in Wales, and this was a very, very strong UKIP place. So it's very much UK. We don't want EEC telling us what to do. And yet most of South Wales was developed with European money. So why vote against the people, the EEC community that's paid for the redevelopment of Cardiff, and it's now an amazing place to live, basically down to EC money. So yes, it's a complete nightmare. So when we go to Europe, we have, we're going to have different forms. There's Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland. It goes on and on and on. So yeah, it's a complete mess. But we got a global pandemic. You had Trump, we had Boris. We may as well have done it, and we would have done a better job.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Biden does not meet. Not very liberal. I believe in doing stuff for the people. Biden is too center of the road for me, but it is so nice not having the guy in the fucking news every 5 seconds and some new article distracting from the major,
Oh yeah,
it's quiet.
crazy.
I like quiet, right? This is awesome.
Yeah.
I like a guy that I don't have to hear about, right? This is perfect. That's one less stressor in my life,
Yeah, and sadly, these guys are in power, and then they make the decisions. We've got our own First Minister in Wales. He's a quiet, pensive, careful man, and actually, our vaccination rate here in Wales is the best vaccination rate outside of Israel, I think. And we've got the lowest cases of COVID, and we still have to wear face masks in shops and pubs and things, even though in England you don't have to. So they've made some really good decisions down here, and they've really cared for the people. And healthcare down here, we haven't got much money, but the actual healthcare and the care that people show people is amazing. Really is. And that's what we want at the end of the day, don't we? We want to feel valued. I found out the people who valued me, and you'll know the people that valued you and who still value you today. So keep going on and inspiring. I know you don't like it, but inspire people who've been in the same situation, and keep giving the message that, there's life after semi-death.
Yeah. Hey man, thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate it.
That's all right. There's no worries. And keep me posted on your Ironman progress. You're going back to do another one?
I don't want to do more than a half.
Yeah.
Obviously, you like to run a lot. The thing is with an Ironman is it's so much volume, right? And I like to be competitive, at least. I don't like to do Ironmans just to complete them. If I'm going to do one, I want to compete, do the best that I can. But to do that, it's between 18 to 24 hours of training every week. On Saturdays, you're on that bike 5-6 hours. On Sundays, you're doing a 20-22 mile run.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Cut that in half. That's I can deal with that, right? That's what I do for a half Ironman, a 7.3. That's manageable. And it allows you to do other things. It's Ironman is so time consuming. And while I like doing the actual race, I've done 3 of them. And, for the first one, I got DQ'd because somebody sent me off course. So I'm like, I got to do another one, right? Okay.
Yep.
Then that one, the swim got canceled. I'm like, well, I got to do another one. That race was not a great race, right? During the run, I had pain in my foot, but I finished. And, it wasn't a great time. Danielle, my ex, was supporting me. She was there. It was great. And I'm like, well, I thought about signing up for another one. I'm like, I don't really have anything else to prove other than to go faster. And that wasn't a big enough motivator for me. Like, I had to have a good enough reason to want to do one. And just to go faster wasn't a good enough a reason, to justify how much work I would have to put in.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just do them for fun now.
Like I said, the 70.3s, I like to do them for fun. It's a manageable distance, manageable training load,
Yeah.
I just didn't like how undiversified my life was. I like to do other stuff with my life too, and find fulfillment enjoying other things. So
Good for you, man.
yeah.
Okie dokie, Eric.
Yep.
It's been lovely talking to you, my friend.
You too, man. Enjoy the week.
I certainly will. Cheers, buddy.